Today's viewer's email has come in from Scott, the subject of which was my 2 Thai wives. So, let's get into it. Hi John, I've enjoyed your videos. I found them very relatable. I haven't thought about this stuff in years, my early days visiting Thailand and the stupid mistakes I made. Misery loves company. I don't quite feel so foolish now, hearing all these stories, and I'm definitely not alone. Many of us have gone down that same rabbit hole. It really can be addictive, like a drug. After watching your videos, it all came flooding back. It's only now, in hindsight, 17 years on, and after writing this, that I realise just how intense and crazy those past events really were. This is my Thailand story, my 2 Thai wives. Obviously consecutive wives, but in very close succession. For the purpose of this story, let's call them yin and yang. Besides, it's rather apt. Let's call me Scott. A brief background. I'm Australian from regional New South Wales. Had been married in my 20s, divorced 15 years later, lost a lot of money in the process. Then foolishly had an Australian girlfriend who moved in with me for about a year. Needless to say, I was cleaned up a second time. Between the two of them, I was out of pocket about $500,000. That was a ton of money in those days. Men don't have many or any right in family court in this country, like most Western countries it seems. It was then I made conscientious decision to never date Western women ever again. I couldn't afford the risk. Although at that point there wasn't much left to steal. I still had my business and a reasonable income, but it's soul destroying having to start over again in your 40s. Here I was, having to pay off the same house again that I'd owned free and clear only a year earlier. The next couple of years, to use the modern vernacular, I went full MGTOW, kept to myself, worked on rebuilding my finances. Then, in my mid-40s, a mate who had a Thai wife invited me to come to Thailand with them for a holiday and suggested his wife could set me up with one of her friends. I had no expectations, but I thought why not? It's a holiday. I've never been to Thailand, so I'll go. We arrived in Bangkok, and the first thing I noticed on leaving the airport was the humidity. The second I walked through the wind wall at the airport exit was intense. It was like someone had poured a bucket of water down my back. My wait's wife had arranged for her girlfriend, Yin, to meet us at the airport. I'd seen photos of her previously, and she lived up to them. No filters in those days. Yin was definitely attractive. Not stunning, which I was perfectly fine with. She was 6 years younger than me, so late 30s. Not a 20-something, which was good. Her English was limited, but she had a pretty face with a beaming smile and a pleasant persona. The first night we went to Nana Plaza. It was fascinating. Having never been there before, it was definitely my taste in entertainment. Little did I know just how tame it was compared to Pattaya. The night was a bit of a drunk, jet-lagged blur. Ying came back to my hotel and stayed with me. She was eager to please. In the morning, we went down for breakfast, joining my friends, did some shopping, and Yin just kind of stayed. I suppose that was the intention, after all. My mate's wife did set us up, so the 4 of us were holidaying together, effectively. Over the next 2 weeks, we were inseparable. Yin doted on me, very attentive, submissive, obliging, and never asking for money. Yin showed me around Bangkok, the usual stuff, tourist destinations, the river, temples. Seen one of the temples, seen them all. I was more in awe of the sanctuary of truth in Pattaya. Being atheist, temples don't do it for me. I respected Buddhism. I've since studied the tenets of Buddhism and showed the appropriate respect. The same as I always stand for the Thai national anthem in the theatre. So, not totally uncouth. Yin also took me to see the more seedy parts of Bangkok, the infamous ping pong show, the more raunchy bars. She was quite okay doing the bar scene, in the beginning at least. Like all the other stories, she was too good to be true, and I was quite smitten. On returning to Australia, we kept in touch, talking every day for hours back in those days. There was no video call on your phone. You used a discount international call card, dialing about 18 numbers to connect the call. I found myself missing her terribly. Yes, I know, sickening. I was only home a month and I decided I had to see her, so I booked a flight and went back to Thailand. I'm self-employed, so taking time off wasn't a problem. My staff could run the place for a while. I asked her if she'd like to come to Australia for a holiday and stay with me. Of course, she said yes. While in Bangkok, I filled out a tourist visa application for her visiting me and me being her Australian visa sponsor. She worked in a massage shop in Nana and had a letter from her boss giving her time off to go on holiday, having a job to return to. This was a primary requirement for a tourist visa, so hopefully ensure she wouldn't overstay the visit to Australia. Having a massage shop as her employer didn't go down well with the Australian embassy, and her tourist visa application was denied. They basically said the only way she'd ever get a visa was if we were married. I couldn't remain in Thailand. I had a business to run and obligations, so I had a choice to make: go home and forget about her, or marry her. Neither choice was really acceptable. I returned home to Australia alone. We were still talking daily for about a month, and I didn't know what to do. Finally, impulsively, I decided to roll the dice. I flew back to Bangkok, filled out the paperwork, and we were married a few days later. I know, insane stuff to marry a woman I'd virtually just met. No village wedding, no dowry, just a legal marriage. I then submitted a new tourist visa application for my now wife, Yin, which was of course approved. We flew back to Australia together. Things were fantastic. I couldn't be happier. She was the same attentive traditional woman as she'd been in Thailand. She was fascinated with Australia. I took her to see everything. She loved the kangaroos, of course, posing for photos next to them. Things were good, and content even. Over the next month, I filled out the partner visa application myself, tracked down all the necessary documents, took her for the visa medical, paid the then $1,900 application fee. Today it's more like $12,000. She had stayed the 3 months permitted on the tourist visa, so Yin and I flew back to Bangkok together as her tourist visa was up, and the next step was to lodge her partner visa and wait for the embassy interview. The interviews were done face to face in those days. You attended the embassy. Now that we were married, Yin became a little jealous and possessive. Yin didn't want me to go to the bar scene with me anymore, not like before, and definitely didn't want me going to bars on my own. I suppose that was fair enough, as we were married. I figured that was the reason. However, it was a very stark change from her attitude previously. Now, thinking back, it was probably as much about protecting her investment. Her temporary residency visa was granted very quickly. It only took 6 weeks. Usually it takes months. These days, years. But the embassy staff had stuffed me around at the beginning, so I made a complaint to someone more senior at the embassy, an Australian guy, not a Thai. He assured me he would handle it. Personally, I think. That's why I went through so quickly. The next few days were as good as I'd expected. Holidays, dinners, usual life stuff, from the drudgery of work to the exhilaration of holidays here and overseas. About 3 years in, I set up a massage business for her, utilizing spare office space in my building. This gave her her own income and something to do with her days. It seemed like a good idea. She wasn't making much money initially, but 6 months in, all of a sudden, her business started to boom, averaging $1,500 a week. So now she had her own money. She'd gotten her driver's license a year earlier and had been granted permanent residency. But it wasn't enough. She wanted more. In fact, it just felt like she had an insatiable want for whatever entered her gaze: money, jewelry, stuff. Something had definitely changed. Yin started demanding large amounts of cash from me for no specific reason. Just, I'm her husband, I have money, therefore I should give it to her because she's my wife. Of course, I refused. We had many heated arguments about money. Yin accused me of hiding money from her. My money, by the way. About the same time, she had befriended some Thai women. The more time she spent with them, the more belligerent she became. The demands for money kept coming. I gave her a little here, but there to buy some peace and quiet. We visited Thailand for a holiday, and while we were there, she bought a 3 million baht block of land without consulting me, not a word, until after she'd paid the deposit inside the contract, then expected me to pay off for her. She'd put down 1 million deposit, which she had saved from her massage business, and what she'd squeezed out of me, and I'm guessing, I refused to pay the rest. I already paid all the bills, for home and work, everything. She had a business with no overheads. The bills were covered by my business, as it was all the same office building. She made good money, a couple of $1,000s a week at this stage, and contributed nothing. I did end up contributing some funds towards her land, basically to keep the peace, but very little. I told her she'd have to pay it off herself, which she eventually did, as she was earning serious money now. You must remember the exchange rate was excellent back then. The Australian dollar was higher than the US dollar, so it was far more affordable than now. But still, 3 million baht was a huge purchase, $90,000 at the time. She paid 30,000 deposit, borrowed 50,000, and I put in 10,000 to keep the peace. Then she started going on girls' nights out with her Thai girlfriend. She'd come home late and drunk or not at all. She'd call me saying she had drunk too much and couldn't drive home. She'd be home in the morning. I did some investigating and discovered she was sleeping around with a series of very young Middle Eastern men. She was meeting them at a nightclub she frequented with her Thai girlfriends. I also discovered the reason her massage business was now booming was because she added certain things to it. Certain things, you can guess what they are. This had started to become known, which was not good, as it could tarnish my business if it became common knowledge. Things were spiraling out of control. I kept my cool and told her I wasn't happy with any of this. It wasn't acceptable. She denied sleeping with the men. I had no solid proof at this point, just what I'd been told, but I had no doubt. Some months later, photos emerged on social media of Yin with multiple young guys. She had booked me access to her photos, so I wasn't supposed to be able to see them. As for her business, she said, "Don't try control me." She threatened to go to the police and say I abused her if I tried to shut down her business. She would do anything to protect what a great income she now had. I'd always decided this was over. But how was I going to get out of this marriage? How do I get her out of my business premises and out of my house without getting financially crucified in the process? I didn't want to act too hastily. I needed to think this through. I didn't want an intervention order against me on fabricated allegations. This could potentially see me banned from my own home under Australian law. This was becoming problematic. I was vulnerable. My business, my home, my money. What a mess. True, my business interests were in a complicated company structure which afforded me some protection, and my home was still heavily mortgaged from a previous divorce, so not much to take. Nevertheless, I needed to protect my assets and myself. I wanted all my ducks in a row before I acted, so for now I ignored the behaviour and pretended everything was fine. Life was pretty much normal. We both went through the motions, still slept in the same bed. She kept disappearing most of the weekends on girls' nights out. We both pretended that's what they were. As we were married in Thailand, not Australia, I would need to divorce in Thailand under Thai law. Thai law is much fairer to men than Australian law, and Thai law says any property you own prior to the marriage remains yours. Any property you purchase after marriage was 50-50. So I waited and played happy families. Well, we both lied to each other and pretended things were fine. I started doing trips to Thailand without her. At first, I went with mates as an excuse, telling her it was just a trip with the guys. Eventually, I gave up on that and just flew alone, saying nothing. As I considered myself to be single, I behaved accordingly. I partied pretty hard, and spent time with some amazing girls. It was obviously not real connections, but there you go. Yin wasn't stupid. She knew what I was doing without her, but she could hardly complain given her own accent. She'd be more upset if she'd had known the other reasons for my Thailand trips. I had made friends in Thailand over the years and had learned some Thai, a few hundred word vocabulary. Not enough to fully converse, but it helped. One of my Thai mates, who spoke English well, used to be with the tourist police. He was very knowledgeable, so he put me in touch with a Thai lawyer who spoke English. She worked in family law. I had a consultation, found out the divorce process. I could either get my wife to come to Thailand to the district office and sign the divorce papers, which I couldn't see happening. Yin was very comfortable with how things were. She had no resources, a home to live in with the bills paid, a rent-free shop for her business, and she parted every weekend with her girlfriends. I was going to have to go through the Thai family court or be at her mercy. I couldn't see any option. My Thai mate invited me to his adult daughter's birthday party to get my mind off things. At the party, I met a lovely Thai lady, Yang. We hit it off immediately. She was 10 years younger than me and 4 years younger than my current wife. Again, from a poor farming community. Not Isan, closer to Bangkok, but same. Her family was struggling to survive as her Thai husband had abandoned her a couple of years earlier, leaving her children to support. The usual story. She had an almost identical background to my current wife, even worked in massage. But Yang was very different. Genuinely kind, generous of spirit, and that is still true to this day. I fell for her. I visited Thailand every couple of months on my solo trips. Over the next year, we spent a considerable amount of time together and talked online when I was back in Australia with my current wife. Yes, I sponsored Yang, minimally 5,000 baht a month, so nothing major. Although I spent money on both of us, on my now very regular trips to Thailand, as you would in a relationship with a Western woman, I paid for restaurants, taxis and the like. In between all this, I was simultaneously acquiring knowledge and evidence against Yin for my divorce. Previously, while home in Australia, I deliberately provoked a heated argument with Yin about her massage business and the extras she provided. I needed more information, something solid to justify divorce under the Thai legal system. In anger, she blurted out how she did it. If you're familiar with the lingo, you'll know what she was talking about. She said, "Not up to you, my life up to me." Then she bragged about how much money she was making and how rich she would be. Next, a bombshell I was not expecting. She said, "I make big money, not pay tax, government not know." With this comment, I had lucked out big time. I had purchased a digital recording device. They were fairly new tech at the time, and many people were still using microcassettes. I recorded the entire conversation as evidence. Under Australian law, such admissions made in anger are known as excited utterance and are 100% admissible in court. On her next girls' night out, I used the opportunity to go through her things and found her real financial ledgers, the months they were written in Thai. But I could read the dollar amounts. I scanned every page, backing the documents up on a thumb drive. Then I put the ledger back where I found it. This paperwork, along with the digital recording, was proof she was deliberately evading tax. And on my next trip to Thailand, I gave the audio recording to my Thai lawyer. She translated it into Thai to use as evidence for the divorce petition on the grounds that my wife had disrespected her husband by doing services for other people. This was a justification for divorce under Thai law, without the wife needing to attend. Some weeks later, when I was back in Australia, I also found the title to the land she had purchased. The documents were in Thai, and I couldn't read them, but I recognized the format of a title document. It has a graphic of the land in the middle of the page with dimensions of the land drawn along the axis, so obviously a title. Also, as it turned out, there was a transfer from moving the land from Yin's name into her adult son name in an attempt to stop me claiming half ownership. As Yin had purchased the land after we were married, half the land would be legally mine under Thai law. Yin was not stupid. She knew enough to hide her assets. Later, My Thai lawyer told me I could fight for the land in the court if I chose to, as she had changed the name on the title after our marital breakdown had begun. It was an obvious attempt to hide assets. On my next trip to Thailand, I gave these title documents to my Thai lawyer for translation. Now I had everything I needed to divorce Yin, protect myself from her threats of false DV allegations, and safeguard my assets back home. When I returned to Australia, Yin was out on another so-called girls' night. When she came home the next day, I had stacked all her clothes and things in the driveway in boxes. I had changed all the locks and notified the local police, telling them she had previously threatened to falsely accuse me of DV if I made trouble for her legal business activities. I told the police officer I didn't want her in the house, as there were CCTV in the driveway and yards I wanted to remain, where I used constant video surveillance in case she tried to make false allegations of attacks against me. The police said that this was sensible and told me to call them if I had any problems, so I'd gotten in first. When Yin arrived home and saw all her belongings in the driveway, she lost it. Furious, she punched me in the face. I simply pointed to the camera and told her I'd call the police. She thought she could just continue doing what she wanted, and I'd continued to cop it, as I had done for the last year. She'd become comfortable and confident that she was in control of the situation. With no clue, I'd be positioning myself to excise her from my life. She was completely blindsided when I kicked her out. She took her stuff and left, but she was not a happy camper. We spoke on the phone the next day. She told me if I wanted her to sign divorce papers, I'd have to pay for her flight to Thailand and back to Australia, and pay for hotel, and pay spending money and compensation. I told her to go F herself. I'd rather pay a lawyer and go to court than give her a cent. I also told her if she went to the police and made up a story about me, I'd already warned police of her threats, and I had CCTV of her punching me. If she initially or any other kind of legal action, I'd be forced to forward her financials to the tax office and the police, along with the audio recording of her confessing to tax evasion and illegal work. With a full statement, such charges could jeopardize her visa. I suggested she could just be happy and have residence in Australia and leave me alone. Then she demanded money and threatened to take me Australia family court. I said if she does, that I go after her 3 million baht block of land in the Thai family court, telling her I had a copy of the title and transfer documents. I'd fight it in the court, even if it cost me more than the land was worth in legal fees. I'd do it out of spite, and she knew me well enough to know I meant it. She'd potentially lose her land and lose face, losing the new status she had built for herself in the village, of her newfound wealth. She had an ego. Yin decided to see things my way, not that she had a lot of choice. Tax evasion was a federal offence. A month later, I returned to Thailand and went to family court. I'd forwarded money to my Thai lawyer in advance. She had arranged a court hearing date and secured the services of a Thai barrister to represent me, while my lawyer acted as interpreter. We went to an Isan district court near my wife's village, and Yang came up country with me, but not in the court, as that wouldn't look good in front of the judge. My wife didn't appear. She had been notified in Australia, but didn't fly to Thailand, so the divorce was granted in her absence. As she had refused to attend court, the judge approved the divorce, awarding 50% of my legal costs against my now ex-wife, which of course she never paid. But I did enjoy sending her the bill. Yin left a deranged, abusive message for me after she received it. She absolutely lost it. I never expected she would pay it, but I was satisfying watching her head explode. I found the Thai family court treated me extremely well, so don't think the court will just favour Thai women because you're a foreigner. The judge was obviously disgusted in her behaviour. My Thai lawyers had worded the petition for divorce and graphic, almost pornographic descriptions of her behaviour. Well, in the English anyway. The judge's tone of voice and facial expression showed his disapproval of my wife without the need for interpretation. It cost me 100,000 baht for the lawyer and barrister combined. At the time, this was just over $3,000, so cheap compared to legal fees in Australia. Money well spent, and my now ex didn't get a cent beyond what she'd extracted from me during our marriage, although she still lives in Australia and still owned her block of land in Thailand, plus whatever money she had in savings, it seemed an equitable end to our 5-year marriage. My business, my house, my bank accounts were all untouched, and it could have been a hell of a lot worse. In the time we were married, excluding normal day-to-day living, food, clothing, normal stuff, she had received just over $40,000 from me in total. $10,000 towards her land, $3,000 in Thai gold jewelry, gifts, money for her family, that kind of stuff. So let's say 10% of what my Aussie divorce had cost me. So all in, I think the Thai courts are a much more even playing field for men. After returning to Bangkok, a free, single bloke, I went straight out and filed a tourist visa application for my girlfriend. Nothing like taking it slow. With a slightly creative employment letter provided by my Thai mate, as he owned his own business, I'd learned the system over the years and wasn't making the same visa error again. So, Yang's tourist visa was approved. She stayed with me in Australia for 3 months to see how things went. It was excellent. She was the complete opposite of my now ex-wife. I'd known Yang for over a year now, and I felt confident in this relationship. Yang and I returned to Thailand together after a few days. I once again had a Thai wife. My lawyer thought I was crazy getting remarried 4 months after getting divorced. My new, should I say current wife, has never been greedy or selfish when we were in Thailand. If we were eating out, Yang would box up any leftover food to give to the homeless people sleeping in the street near our hotel. She would buy street food, the chicken cooked on the sticks. She'd feed it to the soy dogs on the big vacant block of land close to the beach near Soy 10. There must be a dozen or so dogs there, and she felt sorry for them. We have been married over a decade now. Living in Australia, we visit Thailand every year for extended periods to see her family and friends. She has no desire to live in Thailand, and neither do I. She's happy in Australia, and it's home. I'm a traditional kind of guy, so as to the provider of our family, I've renovated the family home in Thailand, brought it up to Western standards. Admittedly, Yang contributed some money towards it as she works part-time and wanted to help. The house is empty now, so we use it as a holiday house, basing ourselves there, not far out of Bangkok. From there, travelling to other destinations. We keep the power and internet connected in the house, so the surveillance cameras work, but it's only 800 baht a month. I've put my wife's children through university in Thailand, even though she said it was too much money and they could go and find jobs. I told her I wanted to do it for them, to give them a real chance at a good life. A university degree in Thailand would give them opportunities. They are both now living financially independent of us in a solid relationships of their own. No grandchildren yet, but plenty of time for that. We are no longer funding any family members in Thailand, which is a good feeling. We live a split life, predominantly on Australia, with considerable time in Thailand. I still visit the bars in Bangkok and Pattaya. I like playing in the bars, and my wife comes with me. Years ago, just after we were first married, the bar girls would disrespect Yang. Speaking in Thai, they would call her stupid for letting her husband go to the bars. It made my wife lose face. She felt very angry and foolish. Consequently, she'd get grumpy when I wanted to go to the bars. So, this was not good all around. I found the solution. Now, Yang buys the majority of the copious number of drinks for the girls, meaning if a bar girl disrespects her, Yang doesn't nominate that girl for drinks. As our last bar tab is 6,000 to 10,000 on average on a night out, sometimes it's been as high as 20,000. The girls decided it's more profitable to respect Yang. Funny about that. The bar girls now make the why and ask Yang's permission to sit with me. So now, loss of face restored, Yang is happy to stay and play. I get to play like a single bloke in the bars, but when we go home together. Although she had been known to spoil me occasionally, like on my birthdays. However, she tells me not to expect this all the time. I can live with that too. It's a fair compromise. She rarely gets jealous after all these years, and she knows we're solid as a rock. I appreciate her affording me this indulgence from time to time. It keeps life and marriage interesting. Most Thai wives or otherwise would not tolerate it. I really do have an excellent wife, for me at least. Depending on your personal morals, you may disapprove. That's your prerogative. I won't lose any sleep over it. We must all live our own lives. Life as we see fit. Scott.